Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. Please tell us if you're joining us from which country, which city, which village. Um, I would be thinking yes, we must have people joining us from Facebook, using Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, but from different parts of the continent and the world. Welcome. We are getting on what we don't want to call it the last because we sure we'll get another session of podcast to do. But for the English podcast, this is our last podcast. It's been awesome. It's been great. We've been quite grateful and gracious to have interacted with educators from across the globe and getting this conversation going on specifically how do we position education within our communities and make sure that there's accessibility for resources, be it from children to the teachers. So we have our guest who also happens to be our donor for this package, Miss Kim. I forgot to introduce myself with the assumption that everybody knows me by now. So we run education projects in sub-Saharan Africa, and of course we do that through partnerships with organizations that are in the education space. So we have Douglas, our donor and key sponsor for this project. He's donated his books, his resources, ebooks that we print, videos, and he also has been very gracious to donate his time and marketing funds. We are so honored to have Douglas with us, based in the US. And we have Mr. Ramon, who is the brains behind the production of the books. And then we have our educators from Tanzania, and when they start to talk, they will introduce themselves. So for now, let me pass the mic to Mr. Douglas. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Can you believe this is our 10th English session? So excited to get right into it. We're really happy that you're joining us today. At least 3 continents, hopefully more. So with that, as we get going, I will shut off my video just to make sure that we have plenty of bandwidth. But without that, any other fanfare or claps and noises and hoorays from the crowd, let's go ahead and get into number 10 idioms, please. So those of you who may be joining us the first time, this is our 10th lesson of English, and there are 10 in science as well. So, but we're talking today about English idioms, and then what else is out there. This may be our 10th and last Zenglish podcast, but there's plenty of data. Like we always do, we talk about Zenglish. Zen just means to be comfortable with something, and we want to be comfortable. We want to be skilled at English. Let me catch up here. So today we're talking about number 10, which is English idioms. What is an idiom? Where do they come from? How are they used? And then we'll go into some of the bonus material like seasons and an introduction to the whole science part of the lessons as well that those can follow up. Please contact Ms. Kim, also known as Ms. Sally, for additional details. Like we've always done, we'll talk about the goals. The goal is to give to everybody who wants, especially teachers, so they're turnkey ready to present to the classes. We'll go over English idioms, the origins, meanings, and uses, keywords, concepts, sentences, videos, rules, and then we'll talk about just a review of the 10-part program. We get into some reading. We'll ask for volunteers to read. We'll watch again. We'll watch the videos, have a chat, talk about the skills that we've learned in English, recap, and show you what's available. And that's today's show. So let's dive right into it. An idiom is a group of words that when you put them all together have a different meaning. And so what do we mean by that? Well, all languages have what's common. It's also called a meme, if you will. And it's phrases that people learn that mean an experience, like cut to the chase comes from the old black and white movies, and it's applicable today to our videos, where in the stories at the end, they'd always have an exciting chase. And so cut to the chase means get to the main point. So we're going to learn and understand and use English idioms where few words have lots of meaning. So we're going to talk about separate words, how they have meaning that can change when all the words are put together. So we go over English idioms, the origins, the meanings, and the uses. Where do idioms come from? It's interesting that many of the idioms, the original context, the original meaning was forgotten. Like put a sock in it. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. What does put a sock in it mean? Why does that mean to be quiet? We'll talk about the current definitions and how they're used. You got to be a little bit careful in using idioms because people may not understand them, but they are a fun way to learn English as well. Keywords, right? Bells and bugs and cannons and chases and computers and gossips and quacks, red flag socks, etc. that we're going to pull all together, and you can see the table of contents of the actual idioms we're going to be talking about today. An idiom, as was mentioned, is a group of words, a phrase, if you will, on page 9 that has a meaning different than the separate words alone. The words put together have a different meaning. And so here's some examples here on the right. Big wig, fired. Red flag, right? Never heard from the grapevine. A computer bug, and even quack. So let's go on to number 10. Please keep in mind, as we always do, about the 4 types of sentences. The sentences that describe things like there are high mounds of broken ceramics that include colorful pieces. Those describe words. Sometimes sentences tell us what to do. Don't stand behind a firing cannon. Good advice. They show emotion. Chase scenes put our senses in an overdrive with actions, energy, and exciting endings. Sentences can ask questions. Why do we say bugs to mean computer problems? Okay, Miss Kim, if we could show the video, please.
Computer bugs mean computer problems. In the past, a computer is as big as a room. One day, Grace Hopper's computer crashed. She looks for the cause. She finds a moth that caused the problem. From then on, she calls a computer problem a bug. Today, we still call computer problems bugs. 2. Heard it through the grapevine means to learn something from gossip. Before telephones, telegraphs send messages. Telegraph wires look like grapevines. People use idioms where few words have lots of meaning. An example is, I just heard through the grapevine that she likes him. Today, we still say gossip comes from grapevines. 3. Loose cannon means an out-of-control person. In the past, wooden warships have metal cannons. Strong ropes keep the cannons in place. A loose cannon would push back quickly out of control. Today, we say this phrase to mean people who can't control themselves. For example, these fighting athletes are loose cannons. 4. Potholes mean holes in the road. Long ago, cartwheels get stuck in muddy roads. Near factories, people put pottery pieces onto the road. Years later, the roads are paved. When holes were in the top tarmac, you can see pottery bits. Today, we call road holes potholes. 5. Put a sock in it means to stop talking so loud or too much. Before music apps, records are played on these machines. Music comes out the horn-shaped speaker. There's no way to lower the volume. The sound is made laughter by putting a song in the speaker. Today, we say, that is too noisy. Put a song in it. 6. Quack means a bad or dodgy doctor. Long ago, people did not know what causes diseases. Doctors think bad air causes diseases like the plague. They wear outfits like this to protect themselves. The beak is full of things that smell nice. These doctors don't cure the plague. The dodgy doctors look like ducks, so people call them quacks. 7. Saved by the bell means to save at the last minute. Long ago, people are afraid of being buried alive. So, rich people are buried with a cord tied to their shoes inside the coffin. The other end connects to a bell at the surface. If alive, he moves his foot and rings the bell. He is saved by ringing the bell. Today, we still say this to mean rescued at the last moment. 8. Throw the baby out with the bathwater means to not appreciate something important. Long ago, people don't bathe often. In the castle, servants pour hot water into the wooden bath. The king washes first, then the queen and older kids. When it's time for the baby's bath, the water is brown. The servants have to take care not to throw the baby out with the water. Today, we say this phrase to mean lose the good getting rid of the bad. Like throwing aluminum cans into the trash is like throwing the baby out with the bath water. 9. Tip means a reward for good service. Before electricity, rich people handwrite notes that messengers deliver. When a message is urgent, the sender pays extra money. On the note, they write tip. It means to ensure promptitude or quick delivery. Today, we still say tip to mean money given for good service. 10. Wave a red flag means to warn about danger. Over 100 years ago, horses pull carts. When cars are invented, some cities have red flag laws. A person waving a red flag walks in front of the slow car to warn the horses. Today, we say this phrase to warn about danger. For example, scientists wave a red flag about climate change. To close, an idiom is a few words with lots of meaning. With idioms, bugs break computers, socks mean quiet, and grapevines talk. Understanding idioms improves my English.
Thank you for the video. Ms. Kim, are there any questions or comments from any of our other participants, please, about the video?
Sebastian, you have something?
Well, this is a very interesting, video. I don't have a question, but I just commenting that learning idioms and the expression that the video has really displayed is something that I was really reading between the line. Wanted to get to understand it, to understand the concept more by getting the other meaning. This is very very good part of the idiom, and it looks like it's a color. We call it a colorful words that are paint our conversation, that paint our expression. And when we talking, we should really express idioms, in the conversation, which is having sort of bring that good conversation and bring that expressive or figurative way of conversation. This is very good literary way of talking. I appreciate Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Sebastian, those are excellent words. Before we dive into the English rules, just a pause. In many of the classrooms, when we're talking about idioms, we'll have students from other countries where English is a second language. We'll bring them in and talk about idioms in their country that are translated into English. And it obviously, when you translate the words directly, you lose the meaning of the idioms, but it's a great compare and contrast of English idioms. And it's fun for the native English speakers that may not be aware of some of these idioms. When they hear them, and then you talk about where they came from. So diving right into our rules and breakers, SVO just stands for subject, verb, and object. It's a nice, simple way to structure a sentence. Frog, the subject, verb said, the action word, the doing word, and ope is the object that the action's being done to or for. And so it's nice and simple when English follows the subject, verb, object rules because you can follow it. But there's a rule breaker where English often does not, especially the longer sentences, does not follow that. Like ope is the object, right? Said or to talk is the verb, and frog is the verb, and then frog is the subject. So a lot of times we don't follow the SVO, but simplest when we're learning English for the first time is to follow that structure. It's much easier for those who are learning English. Okay, I think we may not have time to read it all, but if we have a volunteer that could read several, at least half of these idioms, we'd appreciate it. Miss Kim, who's the volunteer, please?
I think, as always, we start with Mr. Sebastian. Are you ready?
Yeah, great. I'm ready to go. Thank you for nomination. All right. I'll read. Why do we say bugs to mean computer problems? Computer bug. The first computers are each as big as room. One day, Grace Hopper's computer stops working. She looks for the cause. She finds a moth inside the computer that caused the problem. From then on, she calls a computer problem a bug. Well, another one. Today we say this phrase to mean computer problems. For example, my computer is not working right. I think it has a bug. Next. All right, so I'll go ahead and read it. The title is Cut to the Chase. So why does cut to the chase mean? Why does cut to the chase mean to get to the point? Please cut to the chase. So in the past, movies have no sound, no color. The silent black and white films often have exciting chase scenes at the end. Today we say this phrase when talking together or chatting on the social media to mean quickly get to the main points. Do not waste time on unimportant things. For example, minutes later, the listener asks the talker to cut to the chase. So modern movies still have chase scenes. Let's cut to the chase. All right. Okay. So another part of reading is heard it through the grapevine. Well, why does heard it through the grapevine mean to learn from gossip? Before telephones, telegraph are used like this. Tapping the telegraph causes electricity to flow in on and off patterns. These dots and dashes of Morse code represent each elephant letter. The telegraph sends message using long wave wires that looked like grapevines. Today, today we say this phrase to mean in a quotation, hear something by gossip. For example, I just heard it through the grapevine that she likes him. Very interesting. Next. All right. Another part of reading is loose canon. Loose canon. So why does loose canon mean in unpredictable or out of control person? In the past, wooden warships have metal cannons. Strong ropes keep the cannons in place. If the ropes comes united, the loose cannon quotation thrusts backwards quickly out of control. Look at, look out! It is loose. Today we say this phrase to mean people who can't control themselves. For example, these athletes are loose cannons. Thank you. All right. So here is a part of sock in it. Sock in it. Put a sock in it. Why does put a sock in it mean um, quiet down or stop doing something annoying? Before CDS records, CDS records are played on a machine called a phonograph. Music comes out of the horn-shaped speaker. There are SS no way to change the volume. The sound SS made softer by putting a sock in it. Help! It is dark in here and loud. Mother! Well, in the past, phonographs play records of music. Today, we can stream digital music via the internet. Today, we say the phrase to mean to ask someone to stop doing something annoying. For example, you are too noisy. Put a sock on it. That is really interesting. Well, another word is quack. Why does quack mean? A bird or doggy doctor? Quack. In the past, before microscopes are invented, doctors don't know what causes diseases. People once thought that diseases like plague are caused by bad air. Doctors dress in outfits like these to protect themselves from the sick. The beak is full of the flowers and fro- fragrances. These doctors don't cure the disease. The plague kills many people in Asia and Europe. The doggy doctors look like ducks, so people call them quacks. How do I look? Familiar. Well, they, that didn't work. Today this we say this phrase to mean a bad doctor. For example, that doctor gave me the wrong medicine. I think he is a quack. Wonderful, wonderful. The next one is don't throw the baby out with bath water. Why does throw the baby out with the bath water mean to not appreciate something important or throwing out of the good with the bad? Water and bath. In the past, people do not bathe often. In the king's castle, servants heat the water and pour it into the wooden bath. The king washes the first, followed by the queen, and then the older children. Since they are all use the same water, by the time the babies are birthed, the birth water is very much. The servants joke that they have take care not to, in the quotation, throw the baby out with the unclear bath water. So today we say this phrase to mean lose the good, getting rid of the bad. For example, throwing aluminium cans out with the trash is like throwing the baby out with the bath water. Very good. Well, the other one is tip. Why does tip mean reward for good service? Before electricity, rich people communicate with handwritten notes delivered by messengers. When a message is urgent, the sender pays extra money and writes the word tip on the outside. Tip is abbreviation for the phrase in a quotation to ensure promptitude. It means to quickly deliver the message. Today we say this phrase to mean money given for good service. For example, in a quotation, the outstanding waiter received a big tip. Wow. Then next, this is wave a red flag. Why does wave a red flag mean warn about danger? Over 100 years ago, horses pulled carts and carriages. When the first cars are just invented, some places like London and New York City have red flag laws. At this time, people move about with horses powered carts and carriages. The speed limit for the car is only a few miles per hour. A person, in quotation, waving a red flag has to walk in front of the car to warn the horses on the road. Today we say this phrase to warn about danger. For example, the scientists wave a red flag about global warming before the hurricanes arrived. Amazing. Now it's a part of wheelhouse. Why does wheelhouse mean greatest strength and skill? In the past, steam engines power steam boards. The wheelhouse in the room around the steering wheel, which controls the steam board. Well, today we say this phrase in your wheelhouse quotation to mean something you are good at doing. That is something you have the knowledge, skills, and experience. For example, you can manage that project. It is in your wheelhouse.
Mr.
Wonderful.
Sebastian, thank you so much. That was a lot of
I
reading. Thank you.
I
That was
appreciate it.
perfect. Any comments, Mr. Sebastian, before we turn it over to others?
Well, no comment. Just seeing the series of these words, and I'm just really wondering, like, do these idioms bring sort of ambiguity? Are there ambiguity when you want to learn more the context about it? When you want to learn a word, like you said, in the other word could mean something else. Will it bring ambiguity for the person who wants to learn a new language or new words? What is your reaction to that?
I think it definitely can. It's good to be aware of them. So when they watch movies or even just people talking in conversation, people are aware when they use idioms that those who are receiving the conversation may not understand, but also for early learners that they learn it and how it becomes a rich part of our vocabulary. Miss Sally, can we open it up to Mr. Allen and Mr. Goodlove?
Yes, please. And we have a volunteer. If we have another reading session from Mr. Ramon, he's going to read the next ebook if this is a session for reading. Over to you, Mr. Godlove.
Yeah, thank you, and hi everyone. I just wanted to contribute really on putting some comment that what I have understanding from these idioms is like idioms are just few words, and these words are conveying a real uh, a mileage message where the listeners or the learner of the language can interpret it in having so many interpretation. So it's a real good kind of learning. But when it accompanied with the videos, as Douglas said in the movie, when you see like somebody doing a certain action and then they have that idioms, it convey real message to the learners, and they trying to contextualize between the actions and the idiom itself. Otherwise, it's so good, and I really love it. Thank you.
Thank you, God love. Mr. Anthony, would you like to add to the conversation?
Okay, thank you. But this topic it is very good because it brings language on its beauty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
So,
you.
Miss, Mhm.
So, sorry, go ahead, Miss Sally.
No, I'm just saying thank you, everyone. We have a message from Zeno, who is watching us from Facebook. She's very interested in these books, and she would like to get some books on this. So well done, Zeno. She's a high school teacher, and we are happy to connect and send you some books, Zeno. Thank you. You can proceed, Mr. Doug.
So thank you. We're going to finish number 10 so we can get on to what's the bonus materials. But as always, we do a group chat. We talk about the skills we've learned, right? To speak, to read, and to write English. We're pulling it all together. Compliments to artificial intelligence that made the picture for us. And there's some Easter eggs like the birds from the previous stories that we had. So now we finished number 10. We have finished the English program. So we'll leave it to you to go back and recap. If you haven't watched all 10 of the episodes, please get the links from Ms. Kim and watch the whole program. So let's just do a quick recap. I'm going to go through this quickly, like drinking from a fire hose. That sounds like that may be an idiom in its own right, right? Drinking from a fire hose. But so this is the 10-part program. Let's go to the next page, please. 27. It's going to be quickly through the 10 parts. So you remember we started with an introduction to English, the very easy topics, and then learning the rules. And we went right into the story of Robin Tries, where Robin tries English and we learn English. Next page. Sorry for this is so quick. We got a lot to cover here in the last 27 minutes. So number 2 is new words. We learned that new words can have different meanings. The same words and similar words can have the same meaning. Then we talk about turtle that jumps and how he tried, and we learned to practice English as the turtle learned to jump. We get into numbers and to how we use numbers to count. We talk about how we use numbers in money and then even in shape math, but how English numbers we can use every day, from money to dates to time, and how we use money. Then we get into English words, and we look at why English spelling is so hard, and the fact that it's not consistent, it's not the same. And the reason is because English in the island of England, many people came from different countries and brought their languages with them, from the Romans to the Vikings. Then we have fun and we talk about teamwork with an example in the story of a jungle fire and how the animals work together to put out the jungle fire. And we use it as an example of how we work together to learn English. Then we get into Monkey Star, and it's about the monkey that wanted to play guitar but had never practiced. And we learn to practice English because English can take lots of challenges, lots of practice, but it's worth it. Then we talk about how English can be odd. And we look at separate words that we use, like window. Where did that come from? Right? Then we say English is friendly. It allows us to connect around the world. And when there's a story about a fish and a bird that becomes friends, we learn to become friends with our worldwide, around the world friends, just like this podcast. We got at least 3 continents, right? Next, hope one day we'll get Europe added, and hopefully others, and we get more and more people so we can talk and communicate. So then on page 32, we end our 10-part lesson with English idioms, where few words have many meanings, and the fun and the challenges and the energy. I liked your phrase, Mr. Sebastian, how they're colorful words. That's fantastic. So that was a quick run through of our 10-part program. Let's dive right into it. Even though the 10 parts are over, there's lots and lots of additional material. We're going to talk about seasons. Let Mr. Ramon read here. There's a whole nother program called the STEM Zen, which is our science program that's out there and available through Miss Kim. We'll talk about, in addition to that, there's much more books in 3 and 4, and we just keep learning, keep having fun with English. So with that, let's dive right into seasons. The main points are about seasons and how the Earth has seasons, because the Earth turns, tilts, and orbits. And then we get into a little bit of science here. Those who know me, you know I'm going to bring some science into this. We talk about heat, we talk about seasons, and we have seasons because of the way the heat shines on the world. We talk about the words that we need to learn: turn, tilt, orbit. We talk about the table of contents. And with that, so let's skip ahead from the concepts and just get right into the video, Miss Sally, if we can. Let's just play a little bit of it, and then we'll let Mr. Ramon read it, if that's okay.
Okay, could you please start with reading as I get the video? It's not loading. But
No
I'm
worries.
trying.
We can dive right
Thanks.
into reading. That's fine. Mr. Ramon?
Sir, am I not going to read the ebook, sir? Am I going to read what's on the screen, sir?
No, read the ebook, Mr. Ramon, if you can.
Okay, sir. I'll go faster because it's a long ebook, sir. So, seasons turn, tilt, and orbit. Sometimes our weather is hot. Sometimes it is cold. Often it's in between. This story is about the fun science of why we have seasons. As the students go to the first day of the school year, they notice the hot sunshine. Teacher welcomes the students to school. He said, "It will be an exciting year. All year long, we will learn about the 4 seasons." Teacher writes on the board, "Today is hot and sunny. It is near the end of the season called summer." Weeks later, he said, "What is the weather like today?" The students say, "It is cold. We have to wear sweaters." Teacher replies, "It is the season called fall or autumn. Why do the summer and fall seasons have different weather?" Before we answer that question, let's look at why we have days and nights. From our viewpoint on Earth, it looks like the sun comes up in the morning and sets at night. Does the sun really move around the Earth? The students think about this and say, "No." "Correct," said teacher. "The sun stays in one place. It is our Earth that turns or spins around. We see day when we face the sun. We have night when we face away from the sun." "Wow," said the students. "We have days and nights because the Earth turns." The Earth spins, causing different amounts of heat to shine upon our world during days and nights. "But what about when we have to do in the seasons?" asked a student. "We will find the answer soon," said the teacher. "But first, let's see more about the fall season. What happens to plants in the fall season?" The students say, "People harvest fruits and veggies." "Perfect answer," replies the teacher. He moves a cloth to uncover a table full of recently picked fruits and veggies. Everyone grabs a bag and shares in this harvest. "Why do animals like this bear eat a lot of summer and fall seasons?" A student replies, "Because when winter comes, food is hard to find." "Yes," said teacher. "During the fall, the weather is often warm during the day and cool at night. Insects eat a lot too. Towards the end of autumn, bugs lay their eggs. Later, we will see why." Tonight's homework needs help from an adult. Look up the night sky, find the Big Dipper stars, and take pictures and bring them to class tomorrow. At this time of the year, the Big Dipper looks like this. Over the next months, the class notices that the weather gets colder. Teacher asks, "What season is it?" The class answers, "Cold winter. We wear coats, gloves, and hats to stay warm." Teacher agrees. Excitedly, teacher whispers, "Can I tell you a secret?" "Yes, please," yell the students. Teacher continues, "The earth does more than just turn around once a day. The earth has a tilt. Long ago, something happened. Maybe a huge space rock or something else crashed into the earth. Whatever the cause today, the earth tilts. In the winter, the north half of the earth points away from the sun. We get less sunshine and the world is colder." "Wow!" say the students. Teacher asks, "What happens to plants in the wintertime?" "Most of them lose their leaves," replies the student. "Correct," said teacher. Teacher asks, "What about the animals?" The class thinks about the question. They answer, "In the winter, some animals like squirrels eat food they stored from the fall harvest." Teacher nods and asks, "What do the bears and birds do?" The class looks puzzled. Teacher explains, "Bears hibernate in caves. This means that they go into a deep sleep during cold, barren winter. Also, before winter, many birds fly south to warmer weather." A student asks, "What do insects do?" "Good question," said the teacher. "Remember how insects lay their eggs in the fall?" "Well, in the northern winters, most insects die, but their eggs are still alive, just asleep in the cold weather." Teachers gives the students homework to take pictures of what the Big Dipper stars look like in the winter sky. Teacher
Mr.
points to
Ramon,
the...
if I could interrupt you, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for that energetic reading. We loved hearing that. I had forgot to include the ebook, so I apologize.
Oh,
So we couldn't see the pages, but thank you so much for reading that. We're gonna need to stop reading the ebook if we could, please. And
okay.
Miss Sally, do we have a little bit of the video, or is it just not online? Please, no worries.
Yes, with this, I don't seem to be having that video.
No
If Mr.
worries.
Ramon, you're able to send it, I'd appreciate. Apologies.
Me too. I'm sorry I left the ebook out, but we'll make sure you've got copies of the ebooks and the videos, and those who want to contact you can get copies, please. But we use English to explain the seasons on why we have the seasons, and it's a fun opportunity for those countries that are warm all the year round, like near the equator. Why don't they have the four seasons? And those people that live in the north or south of that, why do they have seasons? And how, when it's wintertime in the West, like Europe and America, it is summertime in Australia. So it's a fun opportunity to say that. So seasons are a fun time to be able to talk about the life cycle of a tree example. It brings in lots and lots of English vocabulary, and it's fun to integrate. So, and there's a data point where you can even bring in Stonehenge, which is a place I love there in England, on how the stones were used as a calendar to mark the seasons. So, Miss Sally, do we have any comments or questions from participants before we dive into the additional materials?
Um,
Let
Mr.
me just go first.
Yes,
Let me go
please.
first, and then I'll just allow Golab to go ahead. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate reading the ebook from Mr. Moon. There was a lot of coherence and cohesion of the story, and the fact that you brought the season, and it's time after time, seasons, and there's a variations of season, as you alluded, Mr. Douglas. When you have maybe winter in your side, we have either spring or summer or autumn, and having fall here, we should have another kind of season. This is a very interesting part of stories where we can teach our students in a classroom, learning part of season, and also having vocabulary of day and night, dry, cold, hot, snowy. Those are the vocabulary that we can generate from the weather context that we have explained. This is really fantastic to teach our kids learning about different seasons. Thank you so much.
Perfect, Mr. Sebastian. Are there others who would like to make some comments before we press on, please?
Yes, thank you so much. For me personally, I connect season with the traveling because different part of the world has different season. For example, we have the fall, snowfall, for example, in Europe, in America, something that we don't have with in other parts of Africa. So if you travel for adventure, travel for learning, you get things that you can connect it to learners. And when you really give a storytelling about the season, they really get interested and get to imagine trying to you have the figurative language to have such expression. So it is really useful topic. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Miss Sally, just a quick pause. Any other comments we want to bring in, and we'll press on here.
Proceed. If Mr. Ramon, you can find that video, we could watch it later.
Great, no worries. So on page number 38, we get into, there's a whole different program with 10 parts. It's the science of everyday objects, right? Everything from airplanes, cars, computers, smartphones, food, which brings us back to seasons, right? And we get into nature, space, light, artificial intelligence, and it helps us with learning additional English. You can see the different categories there. There's a video for each one of those that's available from Ms. Kim, and we hope you'll enjoy that program as well. Let's get back to Zenglish on page 40. There are lots and lots of other books and stories out there. Some of them are needing to be redrawn, but it's still fun stories about a bee that sneezes, even though it wants to be a pollen picker to make honey, overcoming obstacles. We get into cookies and how they're made. Cozy Closey about clothing and how threads turn into fabrics that are then dyed in colors. We get into hedgehogs, that a hedgehog that wants to hug, a baby hedgehog, and sees other animals. And so it's a whole story about many ways to show love. We get into the plants that give, and good food goes bad, and no plants, no food. We have touched on senses and the many words in English that we can learn about senses. We talk about shoes that walk and in learning empathy and feelings for others. We get into suns above the clouds, talk about when we have clouds, what happened to the sun. Then there's whole additional programs. So let's just take a look at some quick examples of the additional materials that are available in English. So on page 41, we get into the example of Cozy Closey. There's an additional video available. You can see the book where the teacher can ask questions, the students get an answer, there's interaction, but very pertinent about in the past, we had clothes that were mainly just bland color because they couldn't color them, and how today we have colors from across the rainbow and how fun that is. But the steps that build up the clothes are so example of how we learn English step by step to be able to speak. And lots of new vocabulary here in Cozy Closey. You can see on page 42, we do have a video available. We're not going to be able to take the time in this podcast because we've got 10 more minutes and we've got lots to cover. More examples of plants give. You can see how we have the interaction. We talk about plants, how they are pretty and how they smell nice. Now they give us food, right? And it's an example to talk about how we learn to give each other and to help each other while we're learning English. But then good food can go bad on the next page. And we talk about the science behind why food spoils and what we can do to keep it good. There's videos available for that. I know this is rapid fire. There's lots and lots of additional materials that early learners and advanced learners can help them continue to learn English. Then there's a whole nother section about on page 45 where we get into star time. We look at the names of the words, the names of the weekdays and the months, right? We talk about the challenges we can have learning English, like swimming up a waterfall. We talk about the changes that happen in life, like with the example of Tad's tail turning from an egg into a swimming tadpole into a hopping frog. Then we get into more teamworks, and there's some fun interaction stories about teams of people in the past, so-called zogs and cogs, and how they learn, and then how they forget what they learned and they have to relearn it. And so how English takes constant practice. We've had a lot of teachers ask for books about helping students overcome too much technology. We're using smartphones or other digital devices too much and learning the connections and the touch with the real world. So there's an example of a fun story there. We get into wing waves of how birds control their flight and how that's applicable to our lives. We talk about where English comes from, all about England, the country. And then we get into artificial intelligence. We get into the USA history for those that are interested. Very good topic of pandemics and how the world went through that with COVID-19 and the background and how that's in context. So there's lots and lots of additional English that's available through Ms. Kim and the Edu Store. So, Ms. Kim, can we take a pause? Can we open it up for any questions or comments, please?
Yes, we can. Any questions, please? I see I have one question, an inquiry from Facebook from Zen asking for printed books. So currently we have ebooks available, which you can get, and videos. But we are fundraising to print more books. Last week we printed a few for a few schools. Hopefully we'll be able to print more in the coming few days. Thank you. But if you're able to print, we're happy to send you some ebooks, printable ebooks that you can print and distribute in your community. Thank you. Any questions, please?
Well, I think I should jump in and say that it has been a really great journey since we started the series of our Zen English podcast, and I'm excited actually to be part of this conversation as we delve around vocabulary, funny stories, using animations, new words, some old words that we learn, a lot of idiomatic expressions, a lot of stories in weather. So these have been really nutrients to my learning, and I hope I've been really transformed as a teacher personally. And I hope at the end of this podcast, I will be able to cascade with my fellow teachers and also use the knowledge to share with my students back in the class, especially how, Douglas, you simplified your teaching in a very simple way using videos, some scoms, and having the stories in a simple way to make learners really understand. And we can use these resources for lower classes, also intermediate classes, and even secondary school students in lower levels. They can also learn these things and still get more vocabulary. So I appreciated the participation and engagement in the whole series as we were unfolding the lovely part of learning. Thank you so much. That is all I have in my side, and thank you, and back to you guys.
Hard
That's
to
much
believe this is
appreciated.
number 10, right? We've had a lot. This has been a great, fun, enjoyable session. I hope everyone else has. There's lots of material out there. We start with the basics and we build on it. Miss Sally, any other comments or questions in our last 5 minutes, please?
Well, um, not yet. I'll post them online, and just so you know, interested in our books, just reach out to us. And in Tanzania, please contact Mr. Sebastian or God love, and we're happy to connect and support you with the materials you need. Thank you.
So if we can just wrap this up, please. You can see some of the additional books available. The timely topic of artificial intelligence. There's AI and Us, also called number 10, From Muscles to Machine Minds. There's the example of the pandemics book. Let's go to the next page, please. As we end this podcast, the 10th on English, it's fun to take just a pause and say, where did the English alphabet, which is the Roman alphabet, which was then actually started in the Middle East? And there's a quick story about how the ancient Egyptians mined turquoise. It was part of their religious ceremony with the mummies, and how people from other countries came in, immigrants, and mined that. And these people couldn't speak Egyptian, and so they came up with a way to write down the words easily in the Egyptian, which was hieroglyphic signs, and that's where these Phoenicians, Canaanites and Phoenicians, then turned the first letters, like A was their word for a cow, and you can see the cow's head, and then how over time it now became our A. So some fascinating tie-ins of our alphabet and how all it went to spread around the world. It's such a great example of the English that we're learning together and how it brings us together around the world. So that's a fun story. So just quickly, on the next page is, you can see the 10-part English program and also the 10-part science program. We've had great fun with these podcasts. We hope they're meaningful. We appreciate feedback on how we can make them better, right? What makes sense, anything you can do to help us. They're made to be used. Please use the programs. Let us know how we can help. Let's open up the last 2 minutes. Ms. Sally, comments or questions from the participants?
God love. And I have to say,
Uh,
yes,
what I
sorry.
can just say has been spoken by my colleague Sebastian. Like we really appreciate, but we are looking forward to get more in. I can say like incentives of this kind of podcasting series, like they are so impactful to teachers and getting the ebooks. We are really excited to spread whatever we have and what we have gained in this series, and most especially the artificial intelligence AI in our classroom and integration of technology in in teaching. As far we are in the 21st century, and just in short, I would like to say so. But we are more excited, and we are keeping up, and maybe we can get some way forward, like what will come next year, because learning is part and parcel of our life, and we always like to learning in useful program and series like this one. Thank you so much.
You muted.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you, Doug.
participating in this podcast. Ms. Sally, if we can turn over to you in our last minute, kind of wrap up, and how do people get copies, please?
Thank you. Yes, and I'm glad. Thank you. Sorry, and I'm glad you mentioned God Love, the books on AI, which, especially this particular one that Douglas was talking about, we've gone through it. We do a lot of tech classes with children, and it breaks it down so easily for our children to be able to understand and see how we can, as educators, integrate education technology into our everyday classes. This has been a pleasure. We're going to miss this. So, Doug, we can give you a break for just a few weeks, but we want to get back and we could look into another series maybe we could start Or what do you say, Sebastian and Godlove? We can't allow him to go, right?
Yeah, and in our
That great
culture,
fun. I hope you all have.
in African culture, mostly in Tanzanian culture, we usually part at the back just to celebrate the big journey that we started, and it has been really wonderful. We don't want to miss you, Douglas. That's why I feel like, what should we do next? Godlove inquired that. Thank you.
So, Doug, maybe just 1 or 2 weeks break, yes. But
Thank you.
the people have spoken. Africa needs you. So thank you, a big shout out, and thank you to all our listeners logging in from either of our platforms. It's been quite a pleasure. We appreciate your comments and your questions, and this is ongoing. Please check out our website, www.edistoreafrica.com. You'll see a lot of resources there. And Doug is still writing books every other day with his very awesome Ramon. And Mr. Ramon, your reading was quite awesome. That was really nice, very animated, just like Sebastian's. So we'll keep you posted on when we're going to launch the next series. And for now, from me, thank you and enjoy your weekend. Asanteni.
Thank you,
Asante sana.
Thank you, Miss Ali.
Hakuna matata.
Sorry, Mr. Ramon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Miss Ali. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Asante and kwaheri.
Bye.